Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come step into centuries of history that await in Scotland. Castles steeped in legend walk along cobblestone streets. Come share the warmth of stories passed down through generations. This is a place with a past that is fully present today and all yours to explore. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Drink? Now, shall we begin? Hello. The beautiful Kristin Scott Thomas and the brooding Ralph Fiennes frolicking in the deserts of North Africa. Yep, it's the English Patient in this month's film club as Roger, Tim and myself discuss the 1996 movie directed by Anthony Minghella based on the Michael Ondaatje book of the same name. Lots more history on the way, so please do share with friends, and if you can give a generous rating to the podcast in either Spotify or Apple, I'd be hugely appreciative. But until then, let's get on with it. Hello everyone, hello listeners, hello Roger, hello Tim.
Hello.
And welcome.
Hello, Ollie.
And welcome to our latest film club, The English Patient. And so we picked this, I think we move from the sea, where we did Master and Commander and Titanic, and now we've moved to the desert. The deserts of North Africa for The English Patient, the Anthony Minghella movie made in 1996 and starring Ralph Fiennes, the very handsome Ralph Fiennes, and Kristin Scott Thomas, who I have to say I will not have any criticism of her on this episode whatsoever.
No, you will find none from me.
Great. Verboten.
I'm remaining silent.
Oh, okay.
I'm just being
Juliette
antagonistic.
Binoche, who won an Oscar for this, and the movie won lots of Oscars. Oscar talk is something we will discuss. And then also Willem Dafoe and a number of other good actors, Colin Firth. And so I have to say, I think I saw this in the cinema when it came out. Blubbed. I blubbed so much.
Did you? Did you really?
Yeah.
Ollie does cry very easily.
So I noted down,
Obviously,
in a very unemotional way, as I was blubbing during the rewatch, the amount of times I did cry watching it.
Wow.
And
Okay.
well, you blubbed in the rewatch. What? Recently?
7 times.
And
What?
noted it down.
Yeah.
Are you, sorry, Ollie. Are you mad?
Yeah. I don't cry in any other situation at
Except
all,
for The English Patient.
except for movies.
Right.
Right.
Yes. So
I mean, I'm baffled.
yeah. Oh God, it's a weird psychological quirk.
It's very interesting.
I think.
Is it because there's something you associate personally?
What about this film?
No, just when you cry, it's like, what if that happened to me?
Maybe. I don't. It's a mystery, really. I don't really think about it too much. Unlike Mr. Freud on his Titanic ship, I wouldn't really.
Yeah.
I don't overthink these things.
Did you cry at Titanic?
And I think I was very sad when Johan Grufford saw there's a
Sorry.
baby frozen in the water in the arms of her
Yeah.
mother, and that's actually quite horrific. So I think
Yeah.
tears were rising at that.
Really?
If you said it, I cried when it sank.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was actually
would-
more relieved when it sank than anything else.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean, I
God this
cried
film's over.
tears of joy when it was over. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Anyway, we've given Titanic a big enough kicking. I don't think we
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Kicking.
This is overflowed into our next
yeah.
episode.
I'm afraid I might be giving the English Patient a bit of a kicking as well. I'm
Oh,
afraid.
well, that's good. That's a good thing. Because I love it. So shall I do a sort of quick basic?
Do a little intro. Yeah.
I don't know how many viewers, listeners have watched it, but so I've mentioned the stars. This basic summary of the story is basically it's a story within a story. So the overlaid story is sort of 1944, 1945, Italy, Canadian Army. They are a medical, sort of the Royal Canadian Medical Corps, and I might have made that up. And they have a patient within them who has been horribly disfigured from flames, and he's called the English patient because he can't remember his name, or so he says. And he's looked after by Juliette Binoche. He's going to die because his injuries are so severe. And she stops, takes him, nurses him in a very nice damaged part of Italian sort of convent or some kind of a building, and where she comes across various characters. And within that time frame, the English patient recalls a time in the late 1930s and early years of the war when he met this woman who he fell in love with, and slowly reveals more of his life before the war started, and as the war was developing in the African desert in North Africa. And at the end of the film, really everything's tied up. We understand why he found himself to be where he was, and what this love affair was, and how it is intertwined with sort of espionage in Cairo and Libya, and then our French Canadian Juliette Binoche character, then she has her own little sort of arc and love with a Indian Army officer. So that's kind of summed it up. Probably not very well. So
No, pretty good.
few basics. It did very well. It was it's quite, the finances behind it quite interesting, actually. I was reading, but the budget is a bit vague, and that sounds like there's a few sort of accounting practices carried out by the Weinsteins, who are there's sort of various legal cases, I think, sprung out of this. But basically, the budget was between 27 and 43 million, which is a little bit vague for my liking. I wouldn't be happy if someone said, "Oh yeah, it cost between 27 to 43 million." I'd be like, "Really?"
I mean, it's
double, basically.
It's slightly surprising because who would have known that Harvey Weinstein was a wrong one?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is 30 years ago.
You know, the interesting point about him in particular, but he's, you know, he was in the 90s, he was the new, you know, ultimate independent at the beginning producer who kind of everything he touched turned to gold. And the thing is, unfortunately, regardless of what the person, he was an extraordinary businessman for film, and could recognize potential commercial investment. When it comes to things like The Artist, take The Artist as an example, a black and white silent film. You know, he got that when I can see the potential and put it out there, and it won Oscars. So he kind of had a knack for feeling out the tastes of that decade and the turn. You know, when it comes to, I mean, he essentially, it was thanks to him that Tarantino was put on the map. To a great extent. So, you know, unfortunately, and his name, when any film it was attached to, it kind of did very well.
Yeah, and he was ruthless in sort of the hunt for Oscars, wasn't he? He was a sort of a big game hunter when it came to Oscars.
Yeah. And of
And we
course,
should mention, presumably he just saw this as, oh, right, this is Lawrence of Arabia for the 90s.
I mean, I would say essentially yes.
Right.
It was, coupled with the fact that it's an interesting story for production because it came from a book that was very considered unfilmable. It was very bitty and it flicked up between time periods and different stories. I think there's a little bit more in the book than there is in the film. Minghella did a brilliant, almost a genius piece of adaptation and concentrated it on the characters that we see in the film. And
there are, you say that, Tim, there are still 40 time changes in the film, which is kind of
counting them, Roger?
More than you should be able to get away with. I actually read that somewhere. But
the thing is,
it's more than you should be able to get away with. But it does
seamless.
Work. It's
very clever, and I think he's a great filmmaker. Unfortunately, was a great filmmaker. He died young, which is so unfortunate. And I really challenge anyone to say he made a bad film. Yeah. He's one of those eclectic directors that actually managed to keep the bar very high, and
Truly Madly Deeply, which
came off his debut, Truly Madly Deeply, which was so. Now that's a moving film.
I blubbed in that as well.
And he followed this with the I think wonderful, talented Mr. Ripley.
Yes,
with
like
Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow.
It's very good. Have you watched the TV series?
I haven't actually.
It's really good.
I'm keeping away from it because I thought the film was so good.
It's really, really good.
With
Andrew Scott. Yeah, it's excellent. I really would, and I think it complements the film rather well, actually. Okay. So I would recommend.
Well, I think he's a great writer, Minghella, and considering he was one of the writers on Grange Hill in his youth.
Was he really?
Yes.
There you go.
He's fantastic. And Cold Mountain, we should mention Cold Mountain because
very good film.
The opening scene, I think, or opening various scenes is it shows this attack that is based on historical. It's accurate. Is what I meant to say. The battle scene where they mine the Confederate trench and basically create a dead end for the Union Army to run into. It's a complete disaster, and they are slaughtered by Confederate troops. It's one of the most spectacular opening scenes to a film. I actually think the movie slightly runs out of steam.
A little bit, but it's still got great ambition, and I think it's shot very well. And and the performances are good. Renee Zellweger won an Oscar for it. I think this is his one of maybe his best work. If I go,
well, he didn't make many, did he?
No, but I think this was a kind of a landmark film for the 90s. Like you say, it was the Lawrence of Arabia, maybe or the Gone with the Wind of the 90s in many ways. This film did romance. It's going to come up again. Compared to Titanic, did romance properly.
Well, did it?
I think it was quite passionate.
I mean, if you took a date to this movie,
you like this example? You brought this up.
I don't know.
Time,
I mean, we have done. We've essentially done two. We've done a lot of war films, but we've done a couple of date movies now. I don't know if is this the new theme? Is it, Ollie? Is this now the?
Is this is this a war? I mean, I know it's a war film, but is it a war film? If you know what I mean. I mean, there's not much combat.
I think it's a love story. But my point is, I mean,
tragic love story.
Tragic, yeah. But I just think it's a weird love story because the male protagonist, the Ralph Fiennes character, is such an unbelievable shit. Right? I mean, how could anyone possibly fall in love with him?
Because he's extremely good looking.
He is. Well, I mean, okay, yes, he is extremely good looking,
and he's mysterious.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question. I think.
Okay.
So, Kristin Scott Thomas, she keeps on going on about she's grown up with Colin Firth, they're like brother and sister or something.
Yes.
So he's this rather staid.
So he's an open book to her.
Yeah,
First character.
slightly
Yeah.
dull. Okay, he works in the intelligence service, but that's about
Okay.
as exciting as he gets. Even within his office, when you see a clip with him in his office,
Yeah.
he's just sort of talking about what a first year anniversary. I mean, he just doesn't seem like the kind of particularly cerebral spy one would hope for. So he, as you say, is open book. She's grown up in the South Coast. I think either it's East Sussex or you can
Yeah.
picture it. Nice house,
Yeah.
comfortable,
I
goes to
think she
church on
mentions
Sunday.
Brighton or Eastbourne or somewhere, doesn't she?
Go, yeah, go, you know, tea parties,
She says, "I miss the rain. I miss the grit."
yeah, walks in the countryside with probably a black Labrador thing. Okay, so
and a Range
quite.
Rover.
Nothing long.
Then she meets Count Laszlo. This gorgeous, and they've done something with Ray Fiennes' eyes. I don't know if they changed his color or something, but he had this sort of, and I don't want to sound like I'm racial stereotyping, but he has a kind of slightly Eastern European.
Well,
I don't know
he
if
is
I was projecting
Hungarian.
this.
He is
Yeah, he's playing a
Hungarian.
Hungarian, but I think they did something with his eyes or with his. I don't know what they did. Maybe they a bit of eyeliner, something to to give him a sort of slightly more exotic look. And I don't know if I'm betraying some kind of terrible stereotyping here, but he looks different to all the other British Julian Wadham type characters who are hanging around these bars in Cairo, and he is mysterious, bolshy, but reads a lot of Herodotus and wanders around in Empire in those wonderful shorts, which I really want to quite get a pair of. So he's completely unlike anything she's ever
I
met.
completely get it. He is beautiful in this. I mean, this is Ray Fiennes at the peak of his visual powers. Certainly, he's beautiful. He is mysterious. He's all that. He's also, as a character, I would say, completely emotionally stunted. He's taciturn throughout. He never actually gives any.
What's wrong with that?
He never gives her any insight into who he is at all.
I think he does actually.
I think he does through the mystery. This is why I think it's actually an interesting character. And also, I'm not sure I agree with he doesn't give her the passion. I mean, he
he tears her dress. He's so passionate,
but it also bursts from him at the end. With his, I mean, he does an ollie. He does a major ollie.
But at which point you've kind of, he no longer has he didn't have my sympathy at all in the whole thing. She did. I thought she was fantastic, and frankly, I thought she should have won the Oscar. She had much more range in terms of what she was bringing to the screen, I thought, than Juliette Binoche did. But the Ray Fiennes character, I just thought, Jesus Christ, any woman that falls in love with him is a vacuous fool.
Also, I do think the thing is I think you've got to come at it from the initial the beginning. The beginning. I think the start of their affair is more based on the concealed lust, forbidden lust and passion. That I think is, I've always said that I'm not a massive fan. Sorry, guys. Listeners, of gratuitous sex in films unless it really serves the story and the characters. And I think this is really a great example of how the scene where he says, swoon, and she does, and he finds her way inside and they do it up against the wall. That to me is absolutely essential to see what happens, and it comes through his character. And this is why I think he is an interesting character, because aside from all the mystery, the fact that he carries around, the only book he carries around is Herodotus, to me says a lot, actually, which is great for this podcast, by the way.
I entirely approve of only carrying around
Herodotus.
I
think without any dialogue, even just the fact that he carries around Herodotus is something profound for a character who is a cartographer for the Royal Geographic Society, is a bit of a loner. He is cold, but there's a reason why I think that Kristin Scott Thomas, who is a quintessential English rose, finds him not just attractive, but extraordinarily intriguing, and wants things in his book that she gives him to become a part of this mystery. And I think that as it comes through, as we go along, brilliantly intercut with the present and the mystery of, does he know who he is? Again, a theme. I think that when it all culminates, I see a very complicated person, and I think he's written it very well, and he's played it excellently as well. And so when he does eventually burst into tears, carrying her through I think to myself, what, the guy is amazing. This is amazing. Sorry, Roger.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going again. Just the thought of it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but I mean, by that point, I kind of no longer cared, because he'd lost any sympathy. Well, actually, that sympathy had never been generated in the first place.
Well, I wanted to bring up, because there's a betrayal, and I wonder if that's is the sort of key moment for you, Roger, in that basically I think he's so desperate, and we need to talk about the timeline, which is a bit weird, but anyway, he is so desperate to save her that he's like, take the bloody maps, couldn't care less. They can find their way to Cairo much quicker. That's not I couldn't care. I want to save her. And I have to say, when I'm kind of on that, surfing that wave of emotion that this film can generate, I was thinking, well, yeah, I'd be exactly the same thing. If Marjan, if all that stood between me saving Marjan and that's my wife, listeners, and and me handing over some maps to the I mean, they can take the fucking maps, okay?
Well, it's interesting you say that.
So now I feel like I'm a completely unreliable
traitor.
Yeah, a massive traitor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
and you'd be hanged.
And now, there's this new book out by Antonio Senior about the Cambridge Five, and they betray all their friends and everything. But I think it's different when it's your
proper shits.
Your soulmate.
Well, yeah, and the fact that he says, it's all. I just think it's really cleverly done. Where he says, a woman is dying, my wife is dying. That scene where he goes, my God, how frustrating is that? And
yes.
how I relate to him so much, where he just yells, just give me the fucking car. It's like this absolute building of passion.
And he's
been bottled,
Bloody twit is saying, "Can I have your name and your
your
identification?"
That was his mistake, obviously, that he says at the end. I gave the wrong name. He should have just said, I'm John Smith,
Fred Smith. Yeah,
Royal Geographic Society. His English is good enough, but what I love about his character, going again, adding to the mystery, is that this is why I think he's played it brilliantly, is because he's Hungarian. Right, he's called the English patient. They think he's English because he speaks with an English accent. But the way he actually does speak, he does that brilliant thing where he speaks English flawlessly, but if it has been learnt as a foreign language.
Absolutely,
so it's slightly archaic.
I can see that.
It's slightly things like, "Might I have a sip of water?" We don't say that unless it was 19th century. We would say, "Can I have some water, please?" Or whatever. But he does it so well that you do actually think to yourself, could he have spied for the Germans? It's enveloped in this mystery that I think is done so well through the film.
Yeah, and I think when it's during the war,
true.
and you say, "Oh, my name is Count Laszlo Almashi," it's going to raise a few eyebrows, particularly with this sort of unthinking officer he's met. Presumably, because I imagined a backstory, and I have, to my shame, not read it, despite this book being, I think, named in the top 5 Booker winners in 2022. It was named as one of the top Booker winners. But I imagined in a backstory he's sort of educated in a British public school.
Yes, he was.
And his family are, he's sort of detached from his family, so he's all on his own, which I can kind of see why he would be this sort of rather selfish character as well. But Roger, I suspect you don't have any sympathy for any of that then.
No, I completely appreciate Tim's point about that that characterization that he brings out, and particularly in that use of language, I can see that very much. And I'm not saying he doesn't give a good performance, but I just thought that in terms of the, if we are to categorize this as a love story, and I would, I wouldn't have fallen in love with him. I mean, of course, that's not the point, but I just found that side of it. I thought I found him really sort of, stunted, taciturn. I just didn't warm to him in that respect at all.
See, I warmed to him because he was like that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow. If I were her and I was around the campfire and Colin Firth, we're talking about Colin Firth, by the way. He became a heartthrob lead.
Well, I want to talk about Colin Firth, actually.
I was like, he's the mate. He's the mate you have. Whereas that guy over there, hello.
Well, it's perfectly encapsulated by their performances around the campfire.
Yeah. But this is that problem. I'm going to lose all of. If we have 2 or 3 female listeners, then they're switching off right now. But this is that problem with women that go for bad boys and they become pen pals of serial killers. And that slightly mad woman that was obsessed with Richard III, all the Ricardian. There's a higher preponderance of women in the Ricardian society because they're all obsessed with the bad boy Richard III. That's the same
Roger,
thing.
Let it all out.
The guy was a dick, and all the women are going, "Oh, he's all mysterious." No, he's just an emotionally stunted prick, is what he is. Right. So I'm sorry. That's just how I saw it. So by the end of the film, where it all unravels and he cries and he pulls her out the cave, I kind of don't care anymore because I just think he's emotionally stunted.
Do you not think, can I just give examples of scenes early on that this is brilliant comedy, by the way, early on when they do first have their physical moments,
relations,
the bit I think very quickly his humane side is revealed in the bath,
sewing her dress back,
sewing her dress back. You sing in the, and it brings out quite quickly that actually all he needed was someone that actually found him attractive, maybe mysterious, interesting. But if he were a truly bad boy, I think what would have happened, a little bit like maybe Bond, which is I'm going to come back to because I think Fiennes would have made a brilliant Bond, but Bond wouldn't have done Bond's more of a bad boy than this guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is.
And I think it's actually quite, as I say, humane of him. He's evidently could be a people person. It's just that it hasn't happened for him. And I think that the example seen in the bath, talking about the part of the woman, the piss part of the woman.
Well, that was just weird. I mean, why he asked the other? He said, "What's the name of that?"
Julian Wadham character, who's pull yourself together, man. I love that. That's exactly what I'd probably say.
I mean, just to be fair, I get that, Tim, and I think you get a bit of that coming through in that scene when they're in the car in the snowstorm, and he starts saying, "Oh, I'll tell you about winds," and he tells her about the various, the winds that blow in different places and what the names are and all that. Yeah, I can.
And his desperate need to save the people who've been buried by the. There's all sorts of.
I felt like it needed more of that to come through to make it the love story that it's supposed to be. You needed to also kind of fall in love with him, and I just didn't, unfortunately. Do you see what I mean?
You needed a bit more of Jack in Titanic.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little softer character. Just you can be all hard and mysterious at the beginning, but then you can have the lust at the beginning because, like, without lust, where the fuck would we be? Honestly.
So Minghella could have learned something from James Cameron.
Else.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that I'm ploughing a lonely furrow here.
If he'd been slightly less of a subtle writer.
Yeah. Well, it's quite, because I watched a documentary on YouTube about the making of it, and the documentary I don't think is actually that great. I wouldn't bother if you unless you're obsessed. But Minghella and the author Michael Ondaatje. How do you pronounce it? Ondaatje.
Ondaatje.
the two of them talk about how it was very difficult to get. They knew there was a film, and the producer is interesting on this as well. They knew there was a film there, but they just didn't know how, and it was all very difficult. Like, and then that speaks to what you were saying, Roger. You know, the amount of time jumps back and forth that they somehow managed to weave it together. They did a fantastic job. They really did.
I think it's brilliant.
I mean, it's beautifully done. It is It is a great film. I agree.
There's a great contrast between the past sequences and the present sequences, and for me, cinematographically, you know, the bright golds, yellows, you know, vibrancy of the desert scenes, and the desaturated look of the Italian sequences that so often, I think, if you look at the framing, it's almost like they're paintings. It's like still life when you just see a shot of the jug on the shelf with books. It's almost like 18th, 19th century Italian paintings, which is clever because it's obviously set in
and also
in Italy,
the desert. They didn't do the whole let's do a David Lean on the desert. I love the fact.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. One shot after another that goes on for 5 minutes of just vistas.
A Bedouin, you know, coming towards you in a camel. Yeah. And also, you know, right at the beginning, you know, when they're going over these dunes, are they dunes if it's in the middle of the desert, nowhere near the sea? They look like the torso of a Greek sculpture. And it's extraordinary. It really is wonderful. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they did that. They must.
It's visually beautiful. It really is.
But they didn't do much panning out, which I was pleased, very pleased by that.
I mean, while we're on the subject of visually beautiful, can we just say something about Kristin
Scott Thomas? We can.
I mean,
here we go.
Talk about falling in love with someone. I thought she was amazing in this.
Yeah.
I was swooning.
Yeah, she really lobbied for it, I think.
Well, I was looking at the casting, so because it seems like they settled on the cast pretty early with everyone, apart from there was a wobble over Kristin Scott Thomas, and they were thinking Demi Moore might have been right.
That would have been a catastrophe.
Sure. Can you imagine Demi Moore
as a Brit? Well, she must have been a Brit. She would have been a Brit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, she'd have taken the Kristin Scott Thomas role.
I mean,
that just wouldn't work.
I mean, I love Demi Moore. I love her. She's great. Yeah, but
she's great, but not
in this.
No, I don't think it would have worked. I mean, Fiennes came off, which is brilliant. You know, I mean, he'd come off Schindler's List for. Let's be honest, he should have won the Oscar over Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive.
Yes, he absolutely should have.
And you know, one would have thought, is he going to be typecast as this absolute bastard? Well, Roger will agree.
Yeah.
But you know, romantic lead. I think he was absolutely sensational, to be honest, personally. And
he'd just done Strange Days, which you and I love.
Yeah, really. Again, really great casting. You know, a little bit against type. You wouldn't have thought. What was and then Juliette Binoche, I think, was fantastic. She'd done a great drama, Damage, with Jeremy Irons.
That's very good.
Sort of full of passion there, and Jürgen Prochnow. I love the fact that he pops up here in a great scene with Willem Dafoe.
Great cameo.
Yeah.
Geneva Convention.
Geneva Convention.
He's slightly parody of, German.
A little bit, but I do like the practicality involved, and he's actually genuinely like, oh, for God's sake, maybe it's just a function that they have to do this. They have to, talking about the Nazis, they just have to torture people to get the info. Come on.
Yeah.
Hurry up!
They tried asking nicely.
Cut his thumbs off.
And I have to say that nurse has serious ethical questions to answer. She didn't seem too reluctant to cut the thumbs off, I have to say. Spoiler alert.
Which brings us to Willem Dafoe's character, actually, because it is an interesting.
He's really good.
Subplot, in how he essentially wanted to kill him. It's a revenge story for him. I guess it's a shame we didn't get to see when he says I killed him, the
Yeah.
Prochnite. It's a shame we didn't. I would have liked to have seen that. It would have been interesting. But I think he was great in it. Willem Dafoe was a really
Really
good
good.
casting choice.
He's got such an amazing face, hasn't he?
Yeah, hasn't he? Absolutely.
I mean, he could only ever have been an actor, I think, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All
right. So now we should talk about the sort of history behind this, because it's sort of rather vaguely used, because I actually, if it has a weakness, it's that it is historically inaccurate, isn't it?
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because at the end there is that little bit of text that says, although this is based on certain people. Now, I don't know anything about this. So I don't know what you have come up with, what you've found.
Well, I think there are certain things like, I don't think the Germans had any kind of intelligence operation of any effect at all in Cairo. So, all these photographs of people in Cairo, I don't think the Germans had that.
But members of the Royal Geographical Society, with their cartographers doing this.
Oh yeah, I think that's
all. Yeah,
that's accurate. But I think
this Al-Mashi character was an explorer in North Africa. He was Hungarian, so that's who it's sort of loosely based on.
I don't think they achieved a kind of knowledge of that part of the desert as a result of being given maps.
I don't think
not
so.
That it affects the story.
I mean, during the war, he was in North Africa. He was awarded the Iron Cross. I think got to the rank of captain, I think. So
he was in the German army then?
Well, he was a Hungarian officer. I think he was attached to German intelligence. So because of his knowledge. So in a sense, there's a sort of historical backbone to this. But he's most famous as an explorer and as an aviator as well. So that those two aspects obviously come through in the film as well. And he did mastermind one particular mission, which was a sort of penetration mission behind British lines, which he didn't take part in, but he'd masterminded it, and presumably because of his knowledge of the terrain and so on. So, he's from an Allied perspective, he's rather dubious. And don't forget, of course, the Hungarians were on the other side; they're an Axis country and so on. So, that's all perfectly normal. And he had, as a young man, I think he'd studied on the south coast somewhere. So that hence the perfect English. So he's the perfect character actually, upon whom to sort of hang this story. Because there's enough of his own story there that the truth, which you can elaborate with and play with to make this story. So I think in that respect,
I wonder if it would have been interesting had they or there would have been enough room for it in the film had they enhanced the question as to whether he was genuinely a German spy.
Yeah,
because that would have been quite interesting. Because with his memory loss or alleged memory loss, it would have been quite a fascinating reveal to or at least to get the notion that potentially he had really betrayed Brits, not just because of a woman, but whether it had been happening all along.
Yeah, they could have played with that a bit more. I think that's true. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention Colin Firth, because he plays this sort of quite for the story simple character. He well, slightly actually, because he's dressed up as Father Christmas, and she says to him, "You're always pretending to be someone else." So maybe there's a bit more depth. She says something like that to him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Kristin Scott Thomas. So maybe there is more depth to him than. And the murder suicide, I'm not convinced comes off that well now, does it? Trying to kill your wife and yourself at the same time.
And
poor form. She seems to sort of go, "Oh, poor chap, did you bury him?" and that kind of thing. It's like, murder suicide. But his career is slightly going nowhere at this stage, I think. And I don't think he really gets anywhere in his career until he does A Single Man, which is more than a decade later. So Colin Firth,
and it's all and even subsequently after the King's Speech, for which he got his Oscar.
Yeah, that was after A Single Man, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a year after, I think,
Yeah.
because A Single Man he was nominated as well. But
He was brilliant in that.
post, it tends to be, Operation Mincemeat, and and Jolly Good, and period.
He's in this sub film. He's in sort of the Last Legion or something like that. It's all a bit disappointing, I think. He's
couple of television series he did, based on the Lockerbie. He was good in that, but it's all a little bit, for want of a better word, it's horrible to say, but a bit samey.
I agree, and I thought Tumbledown, he is incredible in, which he's sort of burst onto the scene in that and Another Country, a film with where he plays.
Yeah, and interestingly, it's actually quite, when you go back to his early work, I adore the film that he did with Mark Strong called Fever Pitch, based on the book, where he plays he's a English teacher and he plays an Arsenal supporter, and he's absolutely hilarious. Nothing really like what he did later on with the period Stiff Upper Lip. It's just a bit of a shame, because I think he is a really good actor. But he suited this perfectly. It was great, absolutely perfect casting.
And well, I like there are lots of sort of great support from. I mean, I've mentioned Julian Wadham a few times as his friend. He's really, really good. I mean, I think I wish I'd seen him in more. Actually, I always like him. Anyway, right? Should we talk about the Oscars? They got it got Best Picture, the score, the music, brilliant.
Oh, fantastic! Gabriel Yarrias, brilliant.
He got an Oscar for it. Kristin Scott Thomas lost out to Frances McDormand, and I have to say I'm not too upset by that, because Frances McDormand in Fargo is brilliant.
Yeah, she is the lead in that film as well. She's kind of like
Jeffrey Rush got Best Actor for Shine. That's another film I will actually. It's even worse. In Shine, I am almost sobbing. So
he was good. I mean, he was a good performance. I'm trying to...
But Anthony Minghella won Best Director as well.
Yeah.
Very sad. He died, I think, of a hemorrhage during an operation. I remember seeing him on a train once, I think, from Brighton. Again, I didn't say hello.
That's interesting. Maybe because was he coming from the Isle of Wight, because his parents owned Minghella ice cream.
Indeed.
On the Isle of Wight,
Oh, brilliant. Well, he didn't have an ice cream in his hand. And then, so we've mentioned the score. The music is absolutely stunning, and the
cinematography.
Cinematography is brilliant. Yeah.
Yes, but interestingly, Gabriel, following up this, he then did the composer did this silly French film involving two dogs called Hercule and Sherlock, about how they have two dogs solving crime. Just like, you can't get a more different film from The English Patient. Anyway, should we do our awards?
Yes.
Right, best performance. So, I mean, I don't know. The Brooding, Ralph Fiennes. Juliette Binoche got the prize.
She's great. Yeah. She is great in it. She's so sad. It's so when she suddenly just bursts into tears. When he pushes the morphine away.
Yeah.
I just, she's really lovely in it. I think she's excellent.
She is incredible. And then Naveen Andrews as Kip is great. I love the scene where he's talking to. I love the scene when they're talking about Kipling, and he says, "You're just reading it out too fast. You have to comma." And then he responds with, "Yes, and they shot my people, comma." Full stop. Brilliant, absolutely wonderful. That was very good.
I would say, I mean, it's between Fiennes, Binoche, and Scott Thomas. Surely,
I'd almost
it's
between Scott Thomas and
go with that. Yeah,
who would you go with?
I would go with Kristin Scott Thomas.
Me too.
I thought she had. I mean, apart from being luminously beautiful, she also had. I felt like she had more emotional range than Binoche did in that film somehow.
Yeah, no, I would probably go with that, because she does, even glances, little looks, subtle. But when he's the only bit of a little bit. I've seen Ralph Fiennes on stage quite a few times, and he does have a little tendency to veer into the theatrical. and I think his as fun as it is, his little drunk scene when everyone's staring at him in silence. I think you may argue that it's a little bit theatrical. Oh, shut up! Yeah, shut up. And the kind of slightly unsubtle sneers and
so slightly satirizing his British counterparts. You found a little bit OTT.
A little, just occasionally in his voice. It's not really the performance, but there's a little bit of a sort of theatrical bellow he can do, which is a trait that he uses on stage quite often. I think he's brilliant. Can I just say? I think he's brilliant. But I do adore Scott Thomas's subtleties.
Yeah, I think she wins.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, little looks when they're dancing, where he's sort of looking at her really intently, and it kind of makes her slightly. I don't know if she makes her uncomfortable, or she's aware that he is interested in her,
or she's just enthralled by him.
Yeah. All right, very good. Next, shall we do? Oh, and Kevin Whately, Lewis from Horse in it, brilliant.
Yes, liked him. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right. Most egregious overacting. Perhaps it is that scene with Ralph Fiennes then.
Yeah.
Okay. There isn't too much egregious overacting in it, I don't think.
No,
I wouldn't.
It is quite a subtle.
Yeah.
Subtle.
So maybe
lots of suppressed Englishmen in this.
Yes. God bless us.
Yeah, quite right too. Biggest plot flaw. Now okay, it's quite a big one, I think. So in the film, time seems to lose a meaning once. Okay, so the murder-suicide, which only is half successful in that Colin Firth kills himself. So she's put in the cave, and Ralph Fiennes then has to leave her some corned beef. She's got 3 tins of corned beef.
He did, didn't
he? Yeah, corned beef.
I thought you were joking.
No, it's 3 tins of corned beef.
Yeah, it was corned beef. Yeah.
And then he says, "Look, 3 days to walk through the desert, and then I'll be back in 3 hours." And so,
because
because he won't be walking back.
Yeah.
So it's 3 days, and then he finds these sort of British soldier who I noticed when he arrived said, "Can I have a glass of water or a sip of water?" They gave him half a glass of water. I mean, the guy just clearly walked across the desert, and they gave him half a glass of water.
Yeah, There's one bit that does slightly irk me because he doesn't say his name for a while. And he sounds English. Why wouldn't they? Oh my God!
And he should have said, "Look, terribly sorry."
Frightfully
I've
sorry, old chap.
just walked. My name is. He didn't do that. He said, "Give me that car." I mean, that would annoy me if someone even if they had walked for 3 days across the desert. I'd be like, "Okay, right, where's your manners, mate?" So anyway,
I was a bit concerned by the sort of, there's a feeling of telescoping of time here because
exactly
when all of that, he's doing all that collaborating with the British and not the club, but the Royal Geographic stuff and all of that, where he meets her and everything starts, and then peculiarly it's wartime, and then so all of that presumably comes to a crashing end.
Well, if you remember the Christmas dinner and where they have sex,
that was 38.
Yes, Christmas 38, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then if you jump forward to when the British and then by extension the Canadians are in Italy, that's 44 or 43 at the earliest. So what does he spend? Does he spend 3 years?
Well, I think this is exactly what I'm
right.
Because
speculating in the book, about. I think he's captured or away for about 2 years. In the book, it's 2 years, I think.
Oh, no, in the book it's months, I think.
Right. So
this says 7 months.
This is why I have a slight problem with that.
And she would not be in the same
looking
state.
Absolutely gorgeous. Still,
she wouldn't have any skin.
I think some animals might have had a go at her.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
I don't think she's looking like Kristin Scott Thomas
anymore.
Walked off. No. No.
I mean, this is another minor complaint that I had, which is that everything looked too perfect, right? And I think this is a thing. I know, maybe I'm talking out of turn with a pair of film buffs here, but it struck me as very 90s and actually a bit dated in that respect. It was beautifully shot and all of that, but Ralph Fiennes is never less than perfect on screen. Kristin Scott Thomas is never less than perfect on screen.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And it's just not. Life isn't like that,
He would look a lot rougher.
But I think people were better turned out in those days. They cared more about their appearance.
Yeah, but not in the desert when they've been walking in the desert for however many days. I think that he would look pretty shit. Even a gorgeous guy like that would look a bit shit, and his hair looked pretty nice quite often.
He had quite short hair though. He had short hair, and I think I don't agree.
But it was always perfect. It was always perfectly preened. I mean,
it was very short. And nowadays,
Roger,
wandering around in North
perfect.
Face.
He doesn't always look perfect. When he's in bed as the English patient, he does look pretty shit. To be honest.
Oh yeah, he's pretty shit there. That's true.
That's what face full of furnace will do to you. I mean, it is the timeline is a problem, I think.
Yeah.
And
also the one when he's on the train.
Yeah.
And he beats the guy up.
Yeah.
And then he jumps off the train. I would, in reality, expect the train very quickly to come to a screeching halt.
That's a good point. They go, well, where did Fred go with that German passenger?
Yeah. He's not going to go very far. We could literally go and run after him. Also, he's limping down the track. But whatever.
Yeah.
Dramatic need.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is her looking like she sort of died early.
The time
half an hour before he got there. Yeah. When in likelihood it's at least months and more likely years.
Also, when he's shot down, which I don't believe happens in the book, he just crashes. I think, but he's shot down, and then how long are we talking from Africa to Italy?
Yeah,
I think that's around 43, 44.
It's very late in the day.
I think it's 43 when he's shot down, maybe.
Well, but the shot down, that's okay.
Soon after
this is where we have a problem with the timeline.
Yeah, the Bedouins must have had looked after him for quite a while.
Yeah. This is a problem. I mean,
can you imagine being on that camel though, with your face burnt off?
I mean, a lot of people won't be bothered at all by this, I suppose. But maybe we are. I mean, I don't know. I just want to have a sort of chronology.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, historical inaccuracy. I think the premise that the Germans have a kind of stranglehold on the goings on of the British in Cairo and across the desert, I don't think is accurate.
No.
And anything more on that, Roger? Did you spot any German uniforms that weren't quite right?
I didn't because I'm not nerdy enough like that, but I did see online that apparently Jürgen Prochnau's shoulder boards did not match the rank that was on his collar tabs. So that's one for the nerds out there.
Excellent.
I think the shoulder boards are for a major and the collar tabs were for a colonel. So that is an error, but I can't say that I spotted that one myself. No.
Yes. Right. Very good. Very good. Okay. Right. What if Tarantino had made it? I think he would appreciate the time jumping
category.
The messing around with time, he'd like that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd like that.
There'd be a bit more shooting, I think.
Yeah.
The Willem Dafoe Jürgen Prochnow scene would have been interesting.
Yeah,
that would be really good, actually. I mean, not that it wasn't good; it was very good.
No, but it would just be. There'd be
blood.
Yeah, but there would be. I think that he would do a Hans Lander. With him, Yeah.
I have to say, if someone said, "I'm going to cut your thumbs off," I would tell them absolutely everything. Before.
You're not coming across as being morally terribly brave here, Ollie.
Well, you're not. You're not loyal.
But these are quite different
to the crown.
But hang on. Hang on. But I am actually placing myself. If you genuinely are about to have your thumbs cut off,
I'm singing like have your thumbs cut off. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. And then also if it's your beloved,
her
life. We're talking here.
Well, some things are bigger than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Just in case MI5 are listening.
Yeah. Okay. Anything more on any more advanced on
Tarantino,
Tarantino?
men on a mission, more men on a mission.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe made more
Cartographers
of
on a
them.
mission.
Mm,
Sounds like
yes.
a great premise.
Yeah. Um,
Possibly the most
Yeah,
boring Tarantino film
yeah.
ever. Yeah.
Their objective is to map that ravine, that elusive ravine,
yeah.
and then they're just like a bunch of Nazis in that ravine or something,
Yeah. Yeah,
and then
that's
and they fall in love.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. And then finally, who won the film? So, I mean, Minghella got Best Director,
Mm,
and this sets his career up.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, yeah,
Kristin
I
Scott
suppose.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, Kristin Scott Thomas, I would.
She hadn't done much before, had she? She'd broken,
Mission
but not.
Impossible. I
What?
think she'd done.
Was she in that?
She was in the beginning of the first Mission Impossible, and it's the one that gets stabbed in the
Is she?
in the gateway.
Oh, well done. Yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, she's an interesting actress, actually. Unlike a lot of Hollywood actors. I mean, she's done all sorts. She's I think lives in France and has done a lot of French films.
Four
Yeah.
Weddings
She's
and a
quite
Funeral,
wonderful.
actually. Remember,
Mhm.
she was
Yeah,
in
Four
Four Weddings and
Weddings.
a Funeral.
Yes, that's true. So
So that
I
was
mean,
before
she
this.
does certainly do her
Bitter
own
Moon.
thing.
She's very good in Bitter Moon. But yeah, after this, she does a whole load of French films, I think. Gosford Park.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't did she sort of skyrocket to out and out movie lead? Like the
From this.
Winslets and
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But I get
Mm.
the sense that that's Kristin Scott Thomas owning her own career and wanting to
I
do parts
agree.
that
I
she
think
was
it's
interested
because she
in.
Yeah.
didn't necessarily want it. Yeah.
And she did
Yeah.
stage as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
She's very good in
maybe.
Nowhere Boy.
Mm.
Have you seen that about John
Yeah.
Lennon's early life?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Minghella, in a way, because it's I would call it an epic. It is his. He wrote the film as well. He adapted it from a book that was considered unfilmable in many ways, but he managed to
Yeah.
really pare down the story. I think excellently,
I think you're right.
structurally excellently. I think so.
Yeah.
I would probably go with him.
I saw Kristin Scott Thomas in a bar in Peckham once.
Did you say hello?
No, I didn't say hello.
Was she eating an ice cream?
She was it's this bar that's at the top of a car park it's actually really nice when it's warm. And I think she was having a drink, but she was sort of I got the sense she was enjoying
It was an
the
ice cream float.
environment and the atmosphere. There were no ice creams involved. Yeah.
I'm glad we've clarified that.
And she's beautiful in real life as well. Absolutely incredible.
No, she's luminous.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. Yeah.
And she's very good in Slow Horses, isn't she? She's
with Gary Oldman, and also she plays his wife in Darkest Hour.
yes, she does.
She plays Mrs.
Clemmy,
Churchill.
Yeah. Great stuff. All right. Well, that's been the end of the film. So Roger, I think you were the one who might even have suggested this. And,
Did I?
Yeah, and it turns out that you sounds like you're giving it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it is definitely a 3 out of 5. It's beautifully done. It's good storytelling. That whole, as I said, the center of this to me is a love story, and the love story failed to sort of crackle into life. I just thought he was too emotionally stunted to fall in love with. There it is.
Right.
I'm intrigued as to the comments that we get if we get.
Yes.
Yes. Let's see.
The emotional stuntedness is exactly what appeals to me about this. So,
well, it's weird because I don't think there is emotional stuff. I think it's brimming with emotion.
So, yeah, I agree. You're right. It's sort of nice arc as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Listeners, have your say. Yeah.
Now we did talk about speculate doing Lawrence of Arabia. I'm just conscious this is like 2-3 hour films in a row or something, isn't it?
What about do you want to stay with North Africa, Ice Cold in Alex or something?
Yeah, I like the parallels. We've done nautical back to back.
I think, but the thing is, I'd rather. I hate to disagree with you, Roger, but I'd rather do like a sort of very different. As in, Lawrence of Arabia is set in the First World War. Yeah. It's got all that kind of stuff, but we don't even have to do that. But I think it'd be quite good to do, actually.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I think it's on ITV for nothing.
Okay, let's do it.
And then subsequent after that, I mean,
Yes.
I do know that you mentioned you wanted, and it would bring the what if Tarantino made it, very interesting category. You wanted to do Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, what about Inglourious Bastards after?
Perfect.
I mean, we
Let's do
can,
that.
but the thing is that kind of brings up a great part of the history, like how much bullshit there is, how much actually this is plausible, how much, so your expertise or Roger's expertise could just be really interesting.
Yeah, not mine. I think a lot of people, Roger, I think a lot of people think that that one's Tarantino's best. I don't, but a lot of people do.
Well, it was the birth of his new phase. It was kind of the birth of his what I call the literary phase of his career.
It's not a film I'd like, honestly. So that would be
good, perfect.
Yeah.
That means that Roger has to watch it again, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, okay, listeners, and if you disagree with anything, please let us know.
Yes.
And if you agree, then also let us know. And if you have any suggestions for more films, let us know too. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks, Roger.
Guys.
Insightful as ever.
Opinionated as ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, guys. That was good fun.
Thank you, Tim. Well done.
Thanks, both.
We've come to the end of this club meeting, so thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch about club benefits, please do, either by email or on X or Instagram. Links are in the show notes. I've also included my Substack link so members can read articles I've written on various matters that may be of interest. The History Book Club is written and presented by me, Oliver Webb-Carter. Music is by listener Chat DMZ. Episodes continue next week and every week, so please do join, subscribe, and if you can provide the club with a 5-star rating, we would be delighted. In the meantime, I thank you again, and now I have to usher members out into the real world. Until next time.
You know that moment when you're cozied up at your favorite bar? That's what we do every week.
A lot of the stuff that I was doing back then, I look back and that was so silly and so crazy. I had a liquid nitrogen ice cream shop. The girls were wearing bikinis and lab coats and making liquid nitrogen ice cream from alcohol. And it was just like this only in Las Vegas crazy thing.
The Speakeasy is a raucous ride with the world of spirits, cocktails, bartending, and more. With hosts who know a thing or two about making drinks and drinking them.
I don't want anybody to be apathetic about this brand. I want them to feel something, even if it's negative, hence our fresh FCK tagline. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Yeah.
Pull up a chair and join us for the world's longest running cocktail podcast. The Speakeasy, out on Fridays, wherever you get your podcasts.